Hi everybody, this is Miss Mac, and welcome to Reading Workshop. Today we will continue with our new reading unit, Fantasy Fiction. This is a copy of a Reading Workshop digital notebook where I will be posting anchor charts and other reference material for you to use while you're reading your own fantasy fiction books. You will also have a copy to another notebook where you'll be able to stop and jot and post your answers to questions that I post throughout the week and other comments and questions you have when reading your fantasy fiction book. So let's get started. I put a slide up that discusses the elements of fantasy fiction. Now, I know I went over this in my previous video when I introduced the unit, but I thought that you should have it in front of you so that you can see what elements are included, some all the time, some here and there, and it will help you when you stop and jot, you answer posts, and you talk about your fiction, your own fantasy fiction books. So very quickly, fantasy fiction often includes a story that is not real, but it does follow the narrative story structure, such as characters, multiple settings, problems, solutions, and themes. Settings can be both real and imaginary, and otherworldly. Characters have unusual traits, such as magical powers. They often have the ability to be anthropomorphic, which means that objects or animals can act like humans. So for instance, that's like in Beauty and the Beast where you have the talking candlestick, the talking clock, the talking teapot. They're objects, but they act like humans. You'll also see characters such as witches, dragons, fairies, aliens, etc. There is evidence of magic, spells, charms, prophecies. The characters usually are on a quest or a journey, and while on that quest or a journey, the theme that you will see is usually the fight between good and evil or life and death. So those are just some elements of fantasy fiction that you should keep in mind while reading your books. Today we're going to look at settings. So our first session in our fantasy unit will be looking at the settings of fantasy stories. So remember, settings are times and places. And if we look at fantasy stories, our settings can be kind of three different types. They can be a medieval world that's full of swords, horses, castles, dragons, witches, etc. And that is easily accessible in your life as the Lord of the Rings trilogy, The Hobbit, The Chronicles of Narnia. It could also be in a futuristic world that is different and troubled, such as The Hunger Games. And we also have ordinary settings, commonplaces, where magic infiltrates the world either slowly or quickly, blending in with everyday things and people. And that is like your Harry Potter stories. So like I said, our goal today for session 1 is to look at our settings, our times, and our places. And we want to move away from describing the setting as nice, or on a farm, or in a castle. We really want to look at where the place is, what kind of place it is, what kind of time period. Really get into those descriptive categories and see how the setting and the place actually affect the story. So before we do that, we look at the cover of our book, we look at the title, we look at blurbs, we look at some other art that's throughout the book so that we can start to describe our settings and places. So let's look at that. I have an example. Okay, I have an example. Let me just get there of a book cover. Okay, so here's the book that I'll be reading out loud. I'll be reading The Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. This actually happens to be the second book in the series of The Chronicles of Narnia, but it's the most widely known. Now, you may have read it, you may have seen the movie, but I'm going to use it to demonstrate the different sessions throughout our unit. So if I look at the cover, I have two different covers because the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe have been in publication for years, and every time they send out a new publication, they do new cover art. So if I look at this example right here, I see a castle, I see some statues, some snowflakes, a lion, a waterfall, and a woman's face. So right away, I could say, well, it might be happening in medieval times because there's a castle front and center. The other objects that are on the cover, a lion and a woman's face, really can't tell me that it's medieval times. But I'm thinking it's medieval because of the castle. And then right here is a statue of like a winged horse. So I know that winged horses, usually unicorns, are generally in medieval times or fantasy stories. If I look over here to this example of a latest cover, I see a girl holding a bow and arrow. I see a boy in these like armor shoulder pads right here. And then I see another boy with a breastplate, a shield, and a sword. And then here's that same castle in the back. So here I have more information on this cover that can help me kind of decide that I think the setting of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe will most likely be in a medieval time that definitely has weapons and armor and knights and castles, maybe some winged creatures over here if I'm right about my flying horse. And let's go to the blurb. 4 adventurous siblings, Peter, Susan, Edmund, and Lucy Pevensey, step through a wardrobe door and into the land of Narnia, a land frozen in eternal winter and enslaved by the power of the White Witch. But when almost all hope is lost, the return of the great lion Aslan signals a great change and a great sacrifice. Okay, so with the blurb, I see clues that it could also be in medieval times. I see White Witch. Okay, so right here, this is evidence that it could be in medieval times. Power. I know from all my previous reading that witches have power. And maybe her power has frozen the land in an eternal winter. Oops, sorry. And then here, the great lion. The great lion Aslan. Well, that might be an anamorphic character. He might be a lion, but he might actually act like a human if he is going to change the way this frozen land of Narnia is. And maybe he will take the White Witch's power away. So looking at both covers and looking at the blurb, I'm seeming to think or leading my thoughts into the setting of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is definite medieval. Okay, so now we're going to go back to our digital notebook and we're moving on to slide 4. This is where I'm going to put the notes of descriptive words and ideas and phrases that I find when reading chapter 1 that describe the setting, the time, and the place. What you'll do for your assignments moving forward is whatever I do on my digital notebook that looks like this, you'll be doing a similar version on your own digital notebooks. But for today, the read aloud of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe will be on a separate video because the chapters are longer and I need more time on the videos to read through the chapters and explain what I'm doing. During the lesson video, you'll see my notes on the digital workshop and you'll be able to reference my notes so that you can complete the same assignments in your own fantasy fiction books. So for right now, I want you to switch on over to the other video and I want you to listen to chapter 1 and 2, or maybe just chapter 1 of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and then come back and look at my notes that I've put on the digital notebook for today. And then I want you to read your own fantasy fiction book for about 30 minutes. Just taking a moment, stopping and jotting some places where you see words that can describe the setting, the time, and the place. I want more words than just medieval. I want more words than just castle. I want more words than just the hospital. Make sure you're watching my read aloud so that you can really do this well. And then you're going to write it down on your own digital notebook. Okay, so here is a copy of your own Reading Workshop digital notebook. And you'll see I'm giving you each a copy so you can change it on your own. Let's get rid of this, okay? And please do not change this. I need this, but you're going to put your name on it. And then the next slide, you're going to write the title of the book that you chose off of Get Epic, or if you were able to get one on your Kindle, or if you were able to get one at home, or if you were able to get one digitally through the Maplewood Library or South Orange Library, make sure you put the book title. It is underlined and capitalized, and please put the author's name. You'll see a little hint right here to help you along. Also, you can add a picture of the book cover if you'd like. To do that, you would go to Insert, you would click Image and search from the web. And right here, you can type in the name of the book, The Witch and the Wardrobe, book cover, and you can see various different covers. You click on it, and you hit Insert. Now, you might have to change the size of it. It might be too big, it might be too small, that you can work with. And then here is what we'll be working on. We'll be working on setting. This is your setting slide. So for today, Tuesday, May 12th, and tomorrow, Wednesday, May 13th, you'll be working on describing your setting. So today is a lesson and a read aloud. This is going to take a lot of time. So I figured tomorrow I'll just let you read and do the assignment. So again, right here is where you're going to type in all those specific details that describe the setting or settings of your story. Remember to be specific. If you need help, go back to my digital notebook and see my examples of setting that I put on for The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe chapters 1 and 2. If you need more space because this box isn't big enough, you can go to Slide, you can hit New Slide, and here you go. Or you can even change the layout if you don't like the way this is for your second slide. You can apply different layouts to your body. You can change it to this. You can change it to this if you'd like. You can change the layout of any slide that you add. Please do not change the layout of the set of the slides that I have entered so that at least I have a record of what I was doing. Okay, so any questions? You can email me. Let's just review. You're going to watch this video through the whole video. You're going to listen to my read aloud of the first 2 chapters of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. You're going to look at my notes on my digital notebook. And then you're going to read for 30 minutes today and tomorrow. And then, while you're reading, you're going to stop and jot some information about the settings, just like I did in the read aloud. And you're going to fill out the setting slides in your digital notebook on both Tuesday and Wednesday. So you are reading for both Tuesday and Wednesday, and you are jotting down ideas for setting. Okay? You do not have to turn it in. I will have access to this slideshow on my Drive account, so please just make sure that we're updating it as we move along. Okay, have fun.